it back as far as I can. Okay. Well, I hope everybody, while we wait, I hope everybody had a nice 4th of July. We actually got a few fountains and set them off on the sidewalk. That was the extent of the celebration. Okay, great, thank you. So let me call the meeting of the Town of Onancock Planning Commission to order. So Debbie, could you please take attendance?
Commissioner Adler,
Present.
Commissioner Temple,
Present.
Commissioner Holdren,
Present.
Commissioner Weitzel,
Present.
Commissioner Labadie, and Commissioner McGowan. Chairperson Greer.
Present.
Okay, you have a quorum.
Okay, what I would like to do is I'm going to rearrange the meeting a little bit. We'll go ahead and approve the minutes and get that official business done, but then with you all permission, I would like to flip new business and old business so we can have our conversation with OBCA. And then, you know, if they would like to adjourn across the street and have a cocktail, they'll have plenty of time to do it. I see a thumbs up out there. So, and I also apologize. It's really, this is just a setup where there isn't a way for us to all just sit around a table and have this conversation. So maybe we'll try to figure out. We could move the chairs up.
And we move them up to the microphone so their voices are on the recording.
Oh, that wouldn't be bad. Would you guys everybody like to move their chairs up? It'd be great to have you on there because I'm going to take notes, but it's always easier when I can go back to a recording.
Yeah. You can't talk, but you can come up.
Come up. No, you said that. You'll be fine.
Gotcha.
There it is. All right.
Oh, that's nicer.
Thank you. It is nicer. It's still a little weird, but there's kind of no way around
We'll
it.
pretend.
But it's better than it was. So let's go ahead and do I have any, may I have a motion to approve the minutes? Or actually, yeah, so move. Now we can, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's go ahead and do we have any comments on the minutes? Anybody have anything they want to, any comments or change? Grammar and punctuation, please do that privately. So, okay, so we have no revisions to the minutes. All right, so they're accepted. What I would like to do now is go with your permission is to, I don't know if we need to do this with a motion, but just to flip the agenda.
Why don't we just do it as a motion? I move that we flip the agenda to put the questions to OBCA first.
Second, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, well, let's go ahead and do that. And thank you you're a little bit of you're the first group that we're doing this with. So if we're a little bumbly, bear with us while we work it out. And I want to thank you very much for being willing to come. As you know, we're working on a comprehensive plan for the town, and we're in what I would call a data collection process. And sometimes it's hard data like demographics, which we've been working on, but a lot of times it's what I would call soft data, which is talking to people about what they see going on in the town, what their vision is for the town. Be aware that the comprehensive plan is largely a policy document with action steps. So it won't necessarily reflect every possible, dimension of our conversations, but these conversations will definitely help us direct the action steps and the policy steps. The other thing, be aware, is that once we have completed our work, that the town council will have to approve the comprehensive plan.
Okay.
And there may be more amendments and et cetera coming out of that. So we're early in the game, and thank you very much for participating. So I think for everybody, I don't know if everybody here is totally up to date on OBCA, so I thought maybe we'd start with just some background on OBCA and how you think it's evolved
Mhm.
from the past to the present, because you've all been involved in it for a pretty long
Yeah.
time.
Just a quick introduction of who's actually going to be talking. I'm Bill Burnham. I'm the president of OBCA. We have Jeff Renib
Him on the vice president,
and Man About Town,
Bob Spot.
Bob Spot, who's on our board. He's one of our at-large members. So that's who you're talking with and today. I actually got our mission statement and
Oh.
also an explanation of what we are, not just what we do or what we hope to do, but technically what we are. So if you go to our homepage, onancock.org, one of the main things that pops out right away is we inspire community. And that's one of our taglines to engage with people. And our mission in our bylaws is to attract, retain, enhance long-term engaged residences, businesses, and visitors that complement the unique history, location, and character of the town, which is kind of a formal statement. And we can talk a little bit about how even that mission statement has changed in the last 5, 6, 7 years. We have been in existence as a nonprofit since 1997. We were incorporated with the State Corporation Commission in 2000. And we are a 501c6. So we are not a charity in the sense of a 501c3. If you go to the IRS website, a C6 is a business league. And specifically an association of persons having some common business interests, the purpose of which is to promote such common interest and not to engage in regular business of a kind normally carried on for a profit. So we are definitely an association, but we see ourselves as a business league, not so much as a charity. And an important feature of that is that you pay to join. And our membership is $60 a year. And I forgot to bring you all a membership form, but I'll make sure you get it. Although I know some of you have already re-upped.
Interrupt you
Um,
one second.
yeah.
We can share these notes too if.
Yeah, we wrote up, we addressed each of your questions.
Sure, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm a note taker. It's how I
I'm just gonna
remember.
want you to have like.
Yeah, no.
About 20.
I'm a note taker. It's how I remember stuff.
Okay, good.
Okay. So the question of how we evolved is a good one to start because what we were 15 years ago is not really what we were or are today. 15 years ago, the town didn't really have a marketing, tourism promotion apparatus. And so OBCA under Chris LaMontagne stepped in. We created the first visitor-oriented webpage for Onancock, onancock.org. We had the eat, play, stay tabs, and people could click on them and view all the things that you could do. We definitely promoted our members, but we were aware that there's a lot of other businesses out there. So we tried to keep everyone incorporated or included, I should say. Yeah, and then I think what has happened over the last 5 years specifically, I would say pre-COVID to now, is that with the emergence of Main Street as a grant pursuing organization, as what's the technical term? They're the destination for
DMO.
it's the DMO is basically they partner directly with Virginia Tourism. They can get grants. We cannot get grants as a C6. And so that, and then of course, the overall improvement of the town's website, accessibility, promotion, and that sort of thing. It's really come a long way. I don't know if you guys remember back in like 2010, the website is so much far beyond what it was back then. And so we kind of saw our role evolving. And right now we are very focused on the events, but I don't want to say we're an event organization. We're focused on doing things that make Onancock a place that you want to come, visit, and return. And a lot of that revolves around events like the Christmas Homes Tour, or now we call it Christmas in Onancock.
And maybe just a little tweak on that. It's come visit, return, but also do business here.
Mhm.
Mhm.
It's kind of that civic
Right.
business.
And as far as our organization specifically, I talk to a lot of people and I say, this is a town that you can easily make a big difference. You can join a commission, you can join a board, you can join OBCA, and you can see results from your activities. And I think when I think of OBCA, I think about us making that easy, giving people a forum every month to come listen, share, and then decide how they want to act.
Yeah, I think you all would probably agree. It's a volunteer-friendly community. If you want to get involved, OBCA makes it really easy.
Mhm.
And we always tell people when we do our membership drives and so on, and people who move into town, it's whatever level you want. If it's no level, that's fine. But at least you can come, be informed, engage, share your point of view. If you don't want to, help out at a Christmas parade, that's fine. If you don't want to pull weeds, that's fine. Whatever you want to do.
Mhm.
That throw you off track?
Yeah, that's good. Do I have anything else? Um, so I think one of the questions also addressed, or a secondary question was, what are some of your successes? And I did want to share those before we get too deep. During COVID, restaurants had restricted seating requirements. We worked with the town to close down North Street so that they could put their tables in the street, expand their services, and stay in business, to be honest with you. The ice cream social, someone raised their hand and said, I think we should have an ice cream social, and boom. The next summer it happened. Lights on the Lawn was another what we call COVID keeper, in that we couldn't do homes tours. People weren't going to open up their houses. And so we were able to come up with this idea, although I should say Hillary at Car Place came up with the idea of putting Christmas trees down the driveway of Car Place. And that's really taken off. It's become really a signature event and that sort of thing.
At that time, we also had a driving tour, so you could drive around all through Mount Prospect, in Zone 1A and wherever anybody wanted.
Yeah,
And
no, I
see all the
remember I
lights
did
you
all that.
had
Yeah.
together
Yeah.
for it
Yeah.
and all that.
And these are all organic, they come up at meetings, or they come up in street meetings, and then they end up at the OBCA monthly meeting, the first Tuesday of every month. And then people step up and say, let's make it happen. And I think those are good examples of how we engage.
Yeah.
Halloween's another.
Halloween is the latest and newest, and we're
Yeah, I
gonna,
was just going to mention it because that's a different twist on OBCA. When the Brockmeyers started the pumpkin carving several years ago, Brandon and Kerry were regular members.
Yeah.
And it's not an OBCA event, but they brought it up at an OBCA meeting. We gave them some seed money to get them started, and they, turned into really something great. Dana Simpson with last year's, which was a huge activity, and that was, OBCA and Onancock Main Street, everybody kind of had a different play, but it was, that key thing was Dana, the Brockmeyers, Maphis with the driving tour, people who had a real passion. I think you all agree because you're all volunteers. Unless you kind of are willing to grab the bull by the horns and lead it and do a lot of the work, it doesn't take off. But OBCA can, give a forum to kind of get things going and people to, share ideas and make things better, or say, hey, you know what, that maybe that's not such a good idea.
The big Christmas on Onancock was kind of an interesting thing for me in that we did it because of COVID. But then it grew up, and now in a way we're like Christmas Central on the shore. It's advertised, people come here just for that. So it's kind of neat how they take off and grow roots and
Mhm.
become a bit of an institution. So
And
yeah.
then again, everything is we're always thinking about how can this benefit the businesses? We make sure we're plugged in with the core ones for sure, restaurants in particular, North Street Market, so on. Make sure they know what's going on and give them an opportunity to really leverage it. I think, I haven't seen the figures, but I would imagine St. Patrick's Day is
Mhm.
probably the best day of the year and probably makes some years for some of the restaurants.
And that's kind of the grand opening. It's spring is here.
Yeah.
So, you know,
And are
that's,
you the coordinators for St. Patrick's Day
Yeah,
now?
yeah.
Oh, okay, because I know originally it was,
Yeah, when they, and again, another example, they, Terrace and Nancy had it. Nobody took it over. So I think first year Bob and I were voluntold. And we, kind of, and ended up did all the work and we, along with Claire Marie, and we had to cancel it because that's when COVID hit, canceled it a couple days before. But then it kind of, we looked at it and said, you know what, this is an OBCA event. We're partner with Matt's staff and we can do this.
yeah,
I think it's been a pretty, same thing with Christmas. You can do a big event, plug in real closely with the town staff, and you got to have that coordination and communication. work
and that
well.
brings 2,500 to 3,500 people to town.
which one?
The
Christmas?
St.
Christmas.
Patrick's Day. Christmas.
Oh, St. Patrick's Day?
Yeah, actually they both do. Yeah,
Yeah,
big crowd. Probably the parades. I think Fletcher did a pretty good count and it was close to 2,000 for the last couple, so.
yeah, I believe that.
Throw in the other folks. So yeah, it's important for the short. I think that's one of the things that, not to go too far down this path, but that drives us, having for the shore to have these types of events, we think is important because it's not just Onancock. It's from all over, it's a chance for the schools to be involved, for the Y to be involved, for the senior citizen groups involved. It's a very diverse group of folks. So it's good. That's what small town is all about. And
We've
we
had a
see
lot
events
of, like for the St. Patrick's Day parade, I remember, but even for the old yard sale. It's, you have a whole lot of people from who knows where calling up, wanting to come in and put up a tent and sell. I remember there was some guy that was coming in, he was Zorro. Like, well, nah. Yeah, food trucks coming, things like that. We're saying, no, you guys are great. We love you, but no, this is for our businesses in this town and we want them to thrive.
Yeah.
If you're thinking of opening a business here, we love you, you should come. But if you want to come here and compete with one of our businesses, we're
That's
not
what-
gonna help you.
Okay, so it sounds like really you guys are all pretty collaborative. You've been quite collaborative with all the groups. Do you
Yeah.
feel like has it been an easy process? Have you found that there are communication challenges or things that need to be addressed with collaboration, or has it been pretty good?
It's been good. And I would say that we are pretty much collaborating with every organization in town. The one aspect of our monthly agenda is to provide any organization the opportunity to just come and give an update. So we call them community partners. The standard ones are the town, Car Place, the school, library, and Eastern Shore Tourism is always sending someone to one of our meetings. And we're very privileged to have the mayor usually attend everyone. Matt comes and gives a town update. The school when relevant, and as Car Place when relevant. They're not regulars, but it's before we get into any of our business. So if they're busy and they need to kind of talk and run, we give them that time of the meeting. So in that sense, we feel like we're very collaborative with them. Of course, the school we work with the ice cream, Car Place with Lights on the Lawn. Main Street, of course, I'm sorry, is also one of those community partners that gets a forum at our meetings for whatever they want to announce. And it's usually things that are going to draw their events or their initiatives like Main Street drawing, getting grants or announcing a grant possibility, and police, asking us to spread the word through our membership that if you want to apply for a facade improvement, get in touch with Main Street. So I think Jeff used a word, I don't know if you said it now, but conduit. We can be the place that you go to we can amplify your message.
Yeah. And if you want to talk the wharf,
Yeah, so the wharf,
a good example of the conduit.
yeah, it's a really interesting case. So a concerned resident got in touch with the Onancock Tree Board and expressed concerns about the look of the wharf. And the tree board networked with OBCA to get the message out. We had 10 people down there on a hot morning. We weeded. The town provided their staff with equipment and trucks. We removed stumps, we trimmed bushes, we weeded, and all of a sudden, in 2 to 3 hours, the wharf looked really good.
Mhm.
So we feel
And then OBCA, through our monies raised at Christmas, we've already purchased some perennial plants. We'll be getting more in the next week or so.
Okay.
And that's already, last weekend or the weekend before, we went up with the
Yeah,
residents.
so how do you guys decide to spend your money?
Oh, we have a board of directors. We meet monthly, and if it's based on our bylaws, I have to think if it's a purchase over a certain amount, it has to be approved by the membership. But it generally begins at the board level, prioritizing what it is that we want to spend money on, and then decide, do we need membership approval, or does it fall under the threshold and we can just go ahead and do it. But we always bring that type of purchase, whether it needs approval or not. It's important to keep the members informed of how we're spending their money, essentially.
So another good example, 2 town council meetings ago, Thelma Gillespie raised concerns about the park and the North Street section. That was on a Monday or Tuesday night. By Friday, we had the park benches rebuilt, power washed, sanded, took the sign down, power washed it, repainted it, worked with Matt. We're getting the fences fixed. We picked up garbage. We killed the poison ivy. And now it's, so it's a simple, I think more and more, instead of, blowing a head gasket,
Right.
find who's the right person to speak to. And there's people willing to help out. A number of us have passion for that kind of stuff. And, I think, so far we've spent less than $100 to fix the park benches, and the other work was just sure free labor. And then Matt's guys came over and did a great job with the cutting and trimming, and the quartz will go in and all that kind of stuff. So, and the key thing is not to just do it once and let it go back to disrepair.
Yeah, right.
But so now we've, regular contact with Thelma, who, we had Thelma and Clinton Strand as the grand marshals in the Christmas parade, kind of with some, wanting to build a stronger relationship. So you have those touch points, you can pick up the phone. And now Javon, who spoke at the last town council meeting, hoping he's going to come tomorrow to tomorrow's OBCA meeting, and just, build that network of, okay, we want to get something done. And it's the exact same thing with down at the wharf. It was as simple as, 96 degrees and there were 10 people out there.
Mhm.
I'm surprised we have heart attacks, but
Well, there's 2 in the hospital.
You'll notice I
got it done. And it's fun, it's
I wasn't there.
Germany's one of those 2.
I'm rambling. What else?
No, that's all right.
So what do you think, so, you've got a lot of collaborations going on. What do you think are the successes and positive qualities of the business community per se? How's the business community doing? And then on the flip side, what are your perceptions of the challenges that are facing the business community right now as you guys perceive it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I start with that?
Yep.
Yeah, I think these guys would agree. We're fortunate in that we have a handful of really good business owners. We've got a couple restaurant owners that are really strong. They know how to run a business. I don't want to be too specific, but it's easier. North Street Market, really, really well run. The real estate guys, really, really well run. Dawn was really, really well run. There's, I think a couple other ones that are really, really well run. The concern is we need more. And from our perspective, both as residents, homeowners, Bill, business guy here, Bob, actually his business is based here. The churn of empty businesses coming and going, and I think everybody shares that. I'm not saying anything provocative here, but that's very concerning. It's an area where OBCA doesn't have the capacity. I think in our mind, what we think, and I'm not having spent time on the Main Street Board as Bob did as well. And I know Cindy's on it and a super contributor. From my perspective, if I had a wish list, it would be that funding be set aside to get a real professional person who could be dedicated to the recruitment of entrepreneurs, successful business people who fit the profile they would like on Hancock for a variety of reasons to come in and really try and fill these businesses. Because I don't think, when I was on the board of Main Street, we talked about it and various volunteers to do it. This is a big deal. I mean, it's difficult to do. I know some communities do it, they've had success, but this is not an hour a week and sit in 4 hours in meetings. We need somebody who knows how to do it, who has the connections, who can market the town. And I'm really pleased with a lot of things I hear about. What I know Main Street's doing with the marketing, what Matt and his team have done with the town website and outreach to voters and stuff. There's a lot of energy here, but can we take that success and attract, can you get another Blarney Stone owner in here, who's adding and doing things and investing in the business, and the other ones too. I'm not just speaking to Elon America.
No,
That kind
yeah.
of success, I think, would do us really well. Bizotto's is a great example. That transitioned to a new proprietor, and she's put her heart and soul in it. And you're sitting, at least I don't know her numbers, but going in there and walking by, the place looks like it's doing really well. And she's expanded. She's, lunch is a niche opportunity. She's taking advantage of that. So
Okay.
that's what I would really like to see, a focused effort on that lock and load. We don't have to have every building filled. That's not going to happen, but a couple more strong operators. I
So
think
what's kind of happened here too is it's, some of it has to do with economics, but some of it is just people that own the business is aged out. So they have to
Yeah.
be replaced.
Yeah.
And that's easier said than done.
Yes,
Yeah.
is there a proactive, a profile of our successful owners is, and, very loose terms, is a way to market that profile. You can have that success here. Nancock is set up for that. And one of the reasons it gives me great hope that business owners would be happy here is how well they weathered the pandemic. I mean, what the receipts dropped single digits or that's phenomenal.
Yeah, that
And
is
that
phenomenal.
speaks to the community. This community wants to support the businesses that are here. So
I think
that'd be
Vinny
the
said
wish.
he was doing better than ever. And now he's just delivering to-go pizzas.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I would disagree with,
What's that? No, he was.
yeah.
During COVID,
Yeah.
yeah, that would be great. No, during COVID, the restaurant was closed, but you could get a to-go pizza.
yeah.
And since he didn't have all the other overhead and tables to manage and so on, he was like, I'm doing better than ever.
Yeah. I'll disagree with Jeff on one thing. I would like to see every storefront filled.
Yeah.
That would be
Bill.
a really impressive thing. From my perspective, the successes, the Lilliston building obviously stands out as just one of our major achievements over the last couple of years. First of all, the beautification of it, the way it presents an image when people come into town of, vibrancy because it's full. And then to echo kind of what Jeff said, I started thinking about businesses that have transitioned and maintained. So Bizotto's was one. Going back a few years, Blarney Stone was another. Canvas relocated, expanded, and is doing very well. So I think that speaks to the fact that Onancock can support, businesses, and we can bring the people in to push them through the door.
Is there anything or any kind of partnership that you could foresee where, people coming in who may not have a lot of experience with businesses, where you could see yourselves or somebody else playing some kind of mentorship role?
That was talked a lot with Main Street.
Mm-hmm.
Cindy, I don't know if it's still in the strategic plan.
Actually, and Jeff, I'm hoping you can help me out with this, because there is funding for a new program called Open for Business. And I'm not sure of the begin date, but part of the thing is to recruit businesses, to coordinate with the community college, to train employees as needed. And, kind of to follow the cycle, to have an inventory of available buildings for people to look at with the appropriate contact for realtors or owners or whatever. And, market to the wide area that Main Street markets to, which is, Richmond, Points North, all of that, and hopefully improve our reach on recruiting those businesses to come in.
Except New Jersey. I'm just kidding.
That's me.
That's.
I grew up outside of Trenton, so you know what I'm saying? Watch
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I think there's opportunities near term and then there's longer term development. My thoughts earlier, I think a near term blitz, let's say then, next 24 months, we really want to get somebody or somebody's really going after trying to recruit business owners here. Time is of the essence in my mind on this,
Mhm.
And like you, though, I'm okay with 1 or 2 vacancies. I mean, it crushes me and it kills me. And I've heard a lot of people say this, and, I live just down by the gazebo, so I'll, walk up Market Street on a Saturday at, 1:30 and it's ghost town. Yeah, and I find that very frustrating, particularly you go around some other places not like that. But, near term, if we could have a concentrated effort to really recruit profile, Casey, I love what you were saying with, the master plan demographics, all that good work is super important. Arm somebody to chase, next 24 months, 36 month recruitment. And then, as you were saying, with the training and all those kinds of things, I mean, again, if you look at the broader picture here for the shore, working with the community college, training people, giving them opportunities. I mean, this is the perfect place. It's a service industry need here, and school's perfect for that. So lots of different things we can do. As I tell my wife, just want it in my lifetime.
Yeah.
Okay, keep taking your statins and.
Yeah.
So what do you think of, one of the things I'm concerned about is, I'll just tip my hand on one thing, is that there doesn't seem to be much connection between B2, what is actually called B2 on our zoning map, right? The section that has a laundromat and the businesses that are sort of working services that everybody needs, and this core downtown. They seem like they may have somewhat different functions, but it also seems like they are not somehow connected at all. I mean, do you have members from B2? Do you have people coming in, like the head of the guy who owns the laundromat, or the woman who owns the laundromat, or anything like that?
Eastern Shore Printers,
Yeah.
Woody's Car Service, are our 2 members up at that end.
Even the guitar pick.
The guitar pick places.
Isn't that wild?
No.
When the carpet guys were here. there was
Ben's.
like-
Ben and.
Yeah.
Oh, no, on the other side.
Oh, on the other side.
The more recent one.
Yeah.
After the tile guys, they joined, unfortunately, they left town.
Yeah. Market Street Grill, Maurice, even though she has been closed for a while, Herbal Instinct,
Yeah.
kept paying her dues. So we have had, and we do have members up there. I may have misspoken about Maurice. I don't know if
He's not.
he's not a member, but Market Street
But we
Grill.
plug in with him a lot.
Yeah, Eastern
Big
Shore
events.
Printers, Accutax, it's a small little office. She's a member. They're not, how do I say this? They're not going to be the regular attendees, and that's okay. They just need to know who to call and who to email with a question, and then we either can answer it or we can direct them to someone who can answer it.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way to summarize. The Morrisons with Mallards, they're longtime members. I think
Lifetime.
John has been, in the 5 years I've been here, he's been to one, maybe two meetings. And we asked him flat out because we were working on kind of a long-term plan for Second Fridays. And I think I asked him the question, we tend to talk a lot about the North Street, North Street. And we're trying to, doing more with Morphosis and Imaginarium, and that's coming well. And I asked John, I said, we're not really doing anything for mallards. He said, we don't need it. We don't
Yeah,
want
okay.
you to, and I think that may be a little bit of a case with, some of the other business where it's not it's service, but it's not, a social connection to it, or maybe the employee base is, not, like the Mallards guys are always in the parade.
Yeah,
That
right.
kind of thing. So it's difficult. We talked to Sean a lot with Maurice, and we've tried hard, hey, how, because you don't want to be accused of, okay, you're doing a lot with Blarney Stone, you talk a lot about mallards, and when Da Vinci's was here and all that kind of stuff, we're ignoring Maurice. That wasn't the case. He just kind of doing his thing. And
Yeah.
and I don't know whether this is helpful or not, Casey, but an observation is both from Main Street and OBCA that I've kind of picked up over the past several years being involved in both is the businesses that are really successful, they're really good at what they do, and they're not generally looking for us to bring them programs. I think Bill hit it well. They want a voice, they want an ear, they have something they want to talk about, and one of the times Morrison's, we really knew they were a member and around was we closed off down by Imaginarium and Morphosis. And they were really upset about that. And we changed everything quickly. Bill was able to work with chief, and we got, traffic signs and all sorts of stuff. But, so it's that kind of thing, not every conversation is one and I don't think you enjoyed that, is not one.
Yeah, I
really
bet.
want, but we're there and we're willing to take the punches.
Okay. Okay. Well, where would you like Onancock to be in 5 years? What would you like to, what does your imagination, please don't say Disneyland, but okay, no Disneyland, but what, as you look at, if you were walking the town, what would you like to see?
I'd love to see the Wise drugstore filled, improved. I'm hoping that maybe the House of Deals could get refurbished and get someone in there. I think those are two big empty spots in our downtown. I think I wrote, storefronts filled with businesses, and then something that's dear to Mary and I, foot traffic. We constantly talk about the fact that, as Jeff mentioned,
And I think that's something we're particularly good at.
yeah,
We help bring
yeah.
people into this town.
We don't want to be overwhelmed. We love the charm, and we sometimes really love the quietness of Onancock. It's not that we want to, hate to say it, but don't want to be like a Cape Charles in that volume. But we do notice days and times when it's just nothing's going on.
If I could add a couple things. And this is an over exaggeration, but Second Fridays, these guys just get sick of me saying this at the meetings. Generally speaking, 100 people come to Second Fridays, and there's always this push, do something over here, do something over here. And I always kind of push back and say, you can do all that, but you got 100 people. So you're going to have 30 there and 40 there and the balance up here. So from my perspective, and we do some, town does some, Main Street does some. I think at some point, we need to get a very coordinated and act like we mean it advertising budget behind Onancock, because we clearly have an attractive proposition here, but we need to break through the clutter. And again, going to my Main Street experiences and working closely with Matt, the resources are there to do it. And it's not overly expensive from a human capacity. You buy your media plans or however you want to do it. it can be done, and I really think it should be done. And then the other thing, just, I love the way you asked the question, Casey, when you walk around, what do you want to see? I think in this quarter, right around here, it's getting a little bit, what's the appropriate term? It just doesn't look very good when you step out the back door and,
Yes.
and I think that it should be addressed, again, Main Street, I'm using Main Street a lot here. It did the great mural on the building behind, what was the Charlotte, now the Blarney Stone own it. That's not a great look. What's around there, right behind this building is not a great look. And I just think, and I know I've talked to you about a couple of these things. I know there's limitations and you have legal processes and all that kind of stuff, but when you have so many people who invested in their properties, invested in their businesses, it's, to me, if you need help, let's give, again, we can get volunteers to help. But it's disappointing. And I'm not blaming anybody for that. I just think it's disappointing.
The town and OMS have done a fabulous job with a lot of the beautification stuff that you've done. And that's what helps attract people to town, but it's no substitute for filling storefronts.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the town entrance is going to be spectacular. I mean, and give council and, all the folks, Matt's team, everybody who worked on everything that's, again, I've owned 2 properties in town now. Surprisingly, I just realized I've been here 10 years now as an Onancock owner, and what's occurred over those 10 years is really, really impressive. Pleased with that, but there's more to be done.
Do any of you want to add any? I can do a couple more things, but is there anything else that you would like to ask or know?
I was wondering, what is your understanding of comprehensive plan, zoning, land use, management, and what would you like to see with the comprehensive plan? Casey kind of asked that, but a lot of this is specifically about improving
Right.
ordinances, improving the processes, and, helping businesses, improve, but also, something, it has to be regulated.
Right.
To some extent, or you just end up with whatever.
Right. Unfortunately, my knowledge of the comprehensive plan is not very good. But I think I'm going to start looking into it and being more educated about it. And in terms of zoning, I know how Onancock is laid out with wharf, residential, business. So I have a general sense of what's in each, but whether someone is a B1, a B2, what the different very specific zoning designations are, that's not something that I've really schooled myself in. But just an overall sense of how the town is laid out, which is very nice.
I did get involved in that a while back. Matt will remember, it was over the Airbnb stuff. I would love to see, if you want to rent a room in the back of your house, go ahead, I'm all for it. If you want to open up a bed and breakfast, go ahead, I'm all for it. If you want to open up a house that's unsupervised and have people coming in, I'm against it. Now, we can't tell Airbnb, get out, don't ever come back, have a nice day. But you can zone it appropriately, and that goes to exactly your comment about regulating growth. So then you'll get the growth you want, not the growth that parachutes in that you don't want.
Yeah, and maybe a little add-on to that. What heartens me is there's been so much work done, so many great surveys. What do the townspeople want? And there's also been an overlay of what's missing, in addition to that, in addition to resident input. So, the roadmap is there. And Matt, not to give you any I'm always hesitant to give you a compliment. But what I really like about and understand what Matt's done is he's made the tax structure for the businesses really friendly. So that's not a barrier. I hear things and I'm not sure how accurate this is. I know it was a problem when I was in New Jersey. I heard a little bit here. You know, how reasonable are the landlords here with regard to rents and so on? I don't know if that's a barrier. I don't know if you guys have any jurisdiction to look at that, but I think we should be doing everything we possibly can to make it easy and attractive for good business people to come in here. You know, if they can't make it, they can't make it, but let's get them in and give them a shot.
And we'll do everything we can to put traffic on their doorsteps. Because that's kind of what we're good at.
Mhm. One of the things that, what do you think your role, the organization's role is over the next 5 years? Do you see yourself as a collab, mostly working? What I'm trying to figure out is the relationship, or what might be a good relationship among you guys, EDA, the Economic Development Authority, the Main Street. It seems like there's a lot of stuff going on that maybe information hasn't been shared very well, and it hasn't been, collaborations have not always been easy, I think. Where do you see yourself in this process? And do you think that some medium needs to be developed that would make communication a little better, and make that collaboration a little better?
I think OBCA is very good at what it does,
Mhm.
and we've talked about that. We do have a limited volunteer pool, so there is a limit to what we can do, but I'm fairly confident about what we do and how we do it. I think our meetings are such a forum that we invite OMS every month. We haven't invited the EDA, but I'll certainly put them on the list if they would like to. I think that with the new leadership at Main Street, there's a lot of good communication going on, a lot of emails kind of just, hey, what about this? Or, what about that? Lisa and I had the notion when she first came on of getting together quarterly and just kind of hashing things out and what's new and how can we help each other. That hasn't really materialized, but it's also a matter of personal schedules.
Yeah.
It's very, in another meeting. So that's still something that could be of promise. But I also think that OBCA just should stay in its lane. We know what we do and we do it well.
Yeah, and there's an element with OBCA of informality.
Yeah.
And I think people like that. We get council members that come to the meetings. And I think that doesn't speak to more to you because you've been with it quite a while now, but it's the legacy, the culture of that organization. It's not threatening.
Mhm.
You come, you talk, and it's kind of self-regulating. We had one new member who we kind of described it as new to town and used the analogy of you were invited to somebody's pool for the first time and you don't really know anybody, and you do a cannonball, right?
Yeah, right.
But OBCA informal norms kind of smooth that out a little bit.
Mhm.
Yeah, to succeed in this town, and I learned myself because I can sometimes regret what I do. Stepping into the pool is a much better approach than big cannonball. Just kind of.
What do you think the role of the town is in improving or being involved with the business environment? I know you've got collaborations on logistics, right? What other role should the town play?
I mean, from my perspective, one of my frustrations with maybe the way that the town, all inclusive, and probably looking most directly at town council, is I don't feel like there's a clear You know, and I come from the business world, so I'm very much
Mhm.
like, okay, let's put the time in up front to the heavy lifting. What do we want to accomplish?
Right.
What's our objective? And I know it's difficult because you have, you know, terms are different, stuff like that. But if you don't have that clear roadmap of this is the one thing we want to accomplish, followed by 2 or 3 strategies, how we're going to do it, and then the tactical plan, get a lot of spinning wheels, you get a lot of bickering, I think a lot of wasted energy. So from my perspective, it's probably 2 things. One is real clarity around, okay, what are we trying to accomplish? And again, you know, I say all that, let me go back to a prior comment. Sitting in that council meeting a couple weeks back or a month or so, when went through the list of what's been put into place, streetlights, this, that, you know, it's a great list. But I think if we were more structured with it and everybody got on board, I'd like to hear more like, hey, what do you think? And then what do you think? You know, that kind of discussion I think would be really helpful. And if you could get to that, then I think you could land on, okay, one of the key tenets here is, you know, much better business occupancy. How are we gonna do it? Well, we probably have to fund something or redirect somebody to do it, but that kind of specificity and then with a measurable, you know, not to be crazy about it, but okay, what are the milestones here and how are we gonna measure
Yeah.
if we're having any success?
Mhm.
You know,
Right.
is it 1 storefront? Is it 2 storefronts? Is it keeping people in place for at least 5 years? Whatever it is, you know, but that kind of,
Right. Okay.
yeah.
That's
that would-
really
That would
helpful.
be my vote.
That's really, really
Yeah.
helpful. You know, because the comprehensive plan has action steps. What it does is it'll establish a goal. And what you'll see when you look at the economic section of the plan is there are no action steps
Yeah.
in the plan. And fortunately, we have a team, Paul has become the guru for that section of the plan. And so, you know, there just wasn't anything. So this is new,
Yeah.
this is new turf in the comprehensive plan. You know, and I would expect that, I don't know how my fellow commissioners feel about it, but once we start to draft some stuff, it should probably be up for comment. Yeah,
Yeah.
We're gonna solicit comment.
yeah, we're gonna
Not
solicit
just
comment.
for comment.
Yeah,
There's an inclusivity that this
yeah,
has to happen, and we'll rely on you folks, given Casey's earlier statement, that, you know, we won't include everything for everybody.
Right.
We certainly want to listen and make sure that we don't drop anything out that's
Yep.
critical,
that's critical, right?
whatever critical means.
I don't
Right.
need to lecture you, but I will anyway.
Feel free.
Do exactly what you're saying. Put times on it. You got town input, you get input from anybody, and here's the day it ends.
Oh, yeah, yeah, we're gonna have to, because we, you know, we're supposed to have
Seen
this
that
in
go on forever.
2026.
Yeah.
I know, and it's gonna take a little longer than I think everybody probably originally hoped, because because collecting input takes
Yes, it does.
time.
Yeah. And Casey, looping back to what would you like to
And there
see
will
from
be
the town?
controversy in it.
I guarantee.
Yeah, what would you like to see from the town? I love what you're saying. Make decisions and go. You know, this, like, I've heard so many people just, the hair stands up back on the neck. Main Street did a whole bunch of work on which light posts are we gonna go with? Surveys, Somebody didn't like it I mean, I can't tell you how frustrating that is to a volunteer base. And, you know, on the volunteer thing, and I'll hitchhike a little bit on my comment about having a, you know, clear plan from wherever it comes from, and, you know, council and planning commission and other commissions are aligned to it. That will help so much, because the bickering that is going on in this town, we're losing volunteers, we're having people step back from stuff, people aren't joining because they're so frustrated. Why do I want to get involved? I can't tell you how many people I spoke to, either joining a committee or running for something. Why would I want to get involved in that? And, you know, for a town community like Onancock, that is the last thing this is a great place. If you want to be involved, feel like you have a voice, feel like you contribute. We're an older group. You know, many of us have done our careers, that kind of stuff.
Not you, Bob, you're not
You're
older.
just a pup.
No,
But you know, you want to get involved. You don't want to sit in meetings. You don't want to, I used to get paid for that. I don't get paid for any of this. So I don't want to sit in a meeting and listen to people bicker. I don't want to come to a council meeting. And, you know, it's demoralizing and it's really sapping the energy. So I think everything you're doing, and I think you're gonna say in your notes, and I don't want us to lose it, that you're doing this,
Mhm.
bringing in groups is such a powerful first step.
Yeah, that was actually my last line. You know, I was thinking for you guys specifically, you know, stay positive, you know, engaged and result oriented. So everything that Jeff just said, you know, understanding you're an advisory board, it ultimately has to go to council and they will make the decisions. But I know with the tree board and with a lot of OBCA stuff, we come up with that united vision and we present it and people are like, okay, they thought about it. They all figured it out and they agreed. And so it must be a good thing and we'll go for it. And then I just exactly what Jeff said. You're taking a huge step by just having these sessions, is to accomplish all of it, what I've just said.
great, thank you.
Throw one more thing in. Come to us. What can we do to help you? And a lot of that really is gonna be mastering volunteers for you. So if there's anything we can do to support that within our sort of mission, dragging people into the town, you know, that kind of stuff. Come to us and say, hey,
Yeah.
you guys can help here.
I mean,
Please.
it never hurts to ask. You might ask us to do something and we realize it's out of our area of responsibility or our capabilities, and we'll be like, no, but what about this or what about that? So asking is usually the first step to getting something solved.
I will offer one comment in relation generally to what you've said. I'm used to being, you know, my career was in academic environments where people argue all the time. It's just part of the deal. And with a few exceptions, they know how to argue about things without taking it totally personally and storming off and refusing to participate. And one of the things I've seen here is that people aren't used to that idea of of debate. And so when you actually debate something, what you get is all this anger. And I've found that hard to negotiate myself because, you know, it's like part of doing business and doing good business is having tough conversations and somehow being able to disagree in a way. At some point you have to make decisions and something has to happen. But you know, one of the things I've been struck with is how personally affronted people have been when you ask them about things and when you debate things. I don't know how to address that, you know, except to keep at it, But it is something that I think for a long time, there wasn't much discussion of stuff going on and it really hit people
Yeah.
hard when it started.
And it's a terrible format. It's just not conducive. You know,
Yeah.
open comment. And I fell into this the last town council meeting and Fletcher was like, this, you can't do that. And
Right.
because the process doesn't allow that. Yeah, there was observation. I was on the EDA for about 3 months when it started. And then my residency in Florida precluded continuing. But it really struck me that the first meeting, I think I sat in your chair, Casey, and there were people here. We had never met as a group. Our first meeting, there was no pre-discussion on what do we want to try and accomplish. You know, it just, you're up there, that's on, people are sitting there, it's being recorded. And you're like, oh my God, you know, so you couldn't think out loud, you know, and
Yeah,
that's,
you
and,
can't.
I kind of, I come from the business world, you beat the hell out of each other and then you went and had a beer, you know, I mean, that's just the way it worked well. after that EDA meeting, I sat out there. I'm like, oh my God, I have such different perspective
Yeah, I
for the
know.
people who sit up here, and it gets lost. You know, it's
Yeah,
it's a different thing, you know?
yeah. Well, it's something we have to think
Yeah.
about. Does anybody else want to add a question or a comment? Cindy, you have anything you want to add?
I was thinking something and I think I forgot.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Happens to me all the time. No, and I do that all the time. You walk into a room and you don't know why you're there, right? Anybody else want to add anything to this? Jeff?
Just say, Billy, you said you wanted to look at the comprehensive plan. It is
Mhm.
posted on the Onancock website.
Okay.
Under the planning commission section.
Great.
It's down there at
Yeah.
the bottom.
All right. I'll dig into it.
Yeah, and, you know, materials draft, at some point drafts will go up too. You know, we're starting to figure out, we'll be moving along and drafts will be going up too. But yeah, take a look at the original plan and you can look at its, and I'm sure you'll be able to assess its strengths and weaknesses. And the challenge for us is to make a plan that is not very long, not that long, right? But has clear action steps, and then data, for example, could be in appendices or maps or other kinds of formats, so that there's a core plan and then there's other material that gives you the background data on things. Like I've been collecting demographic data on the town, and it's been really surprising. Really surprising to me. So, you know, so anyway, just be aware of that, that'll be ongoing.
Could I go back? I remembered.
Yeah.
Wow. What you're asking for, Jeff, I think is exactly what we're envisioning with the new comprehensive plan.
Good.
It will have clear goals, clear things that we want to accomplish. And finally, there'll be a customer service survey that kind of goes out to ask the citizens, how are we doing?
Good.
Are we meeting these goals? And to get that feedback loop and kind of a continuous improvement in what we're doing.
Mhm.
So that's at least my hope.
Great, thank you.
Actually, under the state guidance for comprehensive plans, they're supposed to be evaluated every year, and that has not been done. So, and perhaps revised if it looks like something that we were originally thinking about is not going to happen. And I think it's especially important now because I do think Onancock is going to be facing some development pressures in the future. And so we have to figure out how to be
Yeah.
prepared for that as well.
That's the good news. And then, as you pointed out, so now you have to direct that. It's great that you have the growth. Don't let it just be.
Yeah, right.
Like Northern Virginia.
Mhm.
I've been there, I didn't like it.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking about my model for how not to do it is Sussex County, what's going on in
Yeah.
Sussex County, Delaware.
Yeah.
They're just
Oh.
ruining Sussex County. It's amazing. Anything else?
Well, actually, two things. Actually, one, to disclose a bias, my interest, as I look at the empty storefronts, is I'm asking myself, how can we make a closed system so the town is completely livable? And what I mean by closed system is, I came, what, 25 years ago? And so there was, there was a grocery store, there were all sorts of stores, so that if you were mobility challenged, you couldn't do everything in town, but you could certainly do a lot of your shopping in town if you wanted. And when you were talking about, this is part two, that when you were talking about, looking at the empty shops or retail space or just space, that part of what I'm doing is I'm trying to think, how do we construct that town so that, it's not a closed system, but it provides as much as we possibly can in the town. And so this is part two is, boy, as you think about that, tell Casey and she'll get it to me.
Yeah.
Well, single point of contact. is what I'm
Yes,
saying.
very important.
So that,
Yeah.
things don't get lost.
Right.
But, I think of, there's no such thing as a cobbler anymore.
Right.
Right? There would be no need, but that kind of thing so that as we move through to try and, get it into the consciousness that we should attract
Mhm.
these kinds of people or
Right.
these kinds of business.
Yeah.
I think that's consistent with
Yeah.
what you're saying.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear as you go through.
Okay, good.
I just want to say, help get people out when we have public workshops and meetings, public hearings,
Great.
reviewing the draft, making
Mhm.
comments. Because the more people we have involved, the easier it'll be down the road,
Mhm.
because people will have buy-in.
Good.
Mhm.
We have a pretty big message list that we can send to, I'm sure the town does.
Mhm.
even
As
more
does
significant than
Mary
that,
with what's
yeah.
happening. So I think the tools are there, just make sure we're notified.
Yeah, bear with us. We're a little bit out from all this, but you know, we're in data collection mode right now, really, and perception collection.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
so thank you very,
Thank you.
very much for
welcome.
coming.
Appreciate
We
it.
certainly appreciate it. And thank you for moving a little closer so it's not quite so
Yeah.
weird.
Make sure OMS sits back there.
We want a big solar.
I would go for that, actually. You know, these chairs are driving me nuts, but yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, under new business, it is, I should have told you guys, don't go away. It's time for public comment. Do either of you want to make a comment based on this conversation to this point?
I think they were extraordinary. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm very appreciative.
Ocean vision.
Yeah, thank you. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
There's a-
Yeah.
I'll make a
Good
comment.
night, guys.
A couple comments. I love OBCA. Great dialogue, you know, there's just so much. So it recently moved to Hancock. I'm just so excited about and everything they say, but so wonderful. And OBC is great. The town is so welcoming, so many opportunities to get involved. So I think this is great process. You know, have some interest in the commission. And just sitting here and thinking about how are we gonna attract people and businesses to the town? What is it, come visit, return, or whatever it was, Jeff, that you said. And I was just thinking about, we have this massive change coming at the federal level.
Yeah.
That, you know, I don't have a crystal ball, but I think it's gonna hurt. And it's gonna hurt in ways that we cannot foresee yet. And, you know, people are gonna lose their health care. Providers are gonna stop practicing. Who knows what the impact is gonna be to Riverside Hospital? And all these things that are gonna impact tremendously people wanting to come here, their capacity to stay here. It's gonna impact tourism, discretionary money. So I would urge the council or this commission in whatever capacity to be able to get as smart about the impacts of that legislation as quickly as possible. Because
Good idea.
information, there's disinformation, there's facts, there's things, and who knows? But
Yeah.
the more we know and the sooner we know it, so that we can prepare and anticipate and incorporate all of those potential unforeseen consequences into these efforts, the better off we'll all be.
Thank you.
I don't mean to be rude, but excuse me, I don't know your name. Could you?
Oh, sure, I'm Ann Quigley. I live at 12 Carr Street with my wife, Kelly Pekarsky,
Thank you very much. Thank you.
and we love Hancock.
Thank you for coming and thank you for disclosing what you thought and thank you for telling us your name so we know. You know, so.
And she's interested in joining the planning commission.
That's
Yeah.
And I'm Paul Weitzel, and so I don't know if we introduced, well, we did, I guess, in the name call. So.
Yeah.
I did, I caught it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome and thank you.
They have a cool house. Took a long time. Yeah, it's true. Thank you very much, guys. Really appreciate it. Yeah, go have a cocktail. Okay. Now, well, we've got to flip over to our old business. And I'm trying to think where. Update on assignments and responsibility. That's still under new business, but let's move on to old business and then we'll talk about that. I will say that I have sent around a somewhat revised thing on demographics that also included what the federal information is on understanding vacancy. And at the moment, I'm just gonna, I'm not gonna do any more research on this, although I do think we're gonna want to do a drive around and try to identify what really are truly vacant houses, so we can figure that out. But at that point, because this information will evolve and change as statistics, as the American Community Survey changes, I'm just going to stop doing that except for the vacant houses. So what you have is what it is, and it can change and evolve as we get more information. So, all right. So one of the things we need to talk is about this zoning change application that we received from Chris Carbaugh, acting on behalf of the owner in Ocean City. We had developed a list of questions for him. I have given you, Matt then added to them. And I have a new set of these so you can see what Matt did. And I also have a copy of my email. Go ahead and send that way. 1, 2, 3. Let me get here. Okay, so this is the slightly added on to set of questions that Matt has gone ahead and sent to them. So we have a couple of issues floating out here. One was that I have to admit that I did not perceive this as being a completed application when this was first presented. Oh, has everybody got one? Debbie needs one, huh? Yeah, and Matt should have this. You want this too, Matt?
I have it electronically.
Okay, well, let me give it to you, the paper, just easier to look on. Okay, that goes to Matt. Yeah. So then it turned out that he has applied for this to be considered. Yeah, there should be one with, there actually are 2 sets, and I'm sorry for that. Yeah, give that back. Never mind. Hold on. Bear with me. I can't talk and do this the big problem is I can't talk and do papers at the same time. Okay, so this is the Eller rezoning questions. Okay, so you guys now has everybody got the Eller rezoning questions now? Okay. So I guess what I'd like to do is to have Matt tell us where are we at this point?
I had a long conversation with Chris this morning. He walked through the questions and basically what he wanted to say, and he's going to be responding formally in writing and all of that. So we can table that till next month when he gets back to us. But he wanted to make sure that you understand the process that he has to go through is that first he has to get the zoning, because he's not going to start talking to a builder
Right.
until he gets the zoning figured out. So that's the first step. Then the second step is his site plan. But while he's getting that site plan, this group can be going through and putting in what proffers might be asked for and what requirements we might look for and what maximums and what minimums we might request and things like that, because this it's going to fall under R2 because townhouse dwellings are allowed in R2.
Yeah.
Okay. It also says that there's 16,000 square foot minimum plot size for a townhouse dwelling. He's looking at clustering. No, not yet. Yeah, I just said he was going to respond in writing. So, so it says that we have 16,000, and he and I went back and forth about what that would mean, because I didn't understand how he was interpreting it and that type of thing. So we had a really good conversation, and he is going to be putting everything in writing and responding, but he wanted you to make sure you understood the process. Like, he's not going to be able to give you an elevation of a townhouse because he doesn't have a builder yet, because he doesn't have the zoning yet.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Well, I think, you know, the problem for us, I mean, among other things is that, you know, we could give him the way our R2 zoning is set up, we could give him the R2 and wind up with something that we don't like. It seems like we have to deal with the zoning. What we've got to do is actually go through that process of looking at the zoning. So it's a whole nother set of problems from the comprehensive plan, is that we've got this request for rezoning, but R2 may not may not do what we want it to do.
Correct.
Right.
That was gonna be my comment. Is it possible to create a new, like an R3?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, is he saying that he can't answer any of this list of?
No,
questions?
He said he's going to answer all that he can.
Okay,
And then the rest of it, he just wanted you to understand the
Right.
process that he has to go through, because he's not going to go through and hire an architect
sure.
until he knows that he's going to
From
have.
my point of view, I mean, I would want to table this if possible until we get the responses
agree.
we can get.
Yeah, I agree.
I would
Have as
agree.
much information as we can before we decide.
And
Yeah.
we're not legally obligated to rezone, to change the zoning.
No,
You're not. That's one of the things I asked him was, what do you do if you don't get this zoning? And he said there's no commercial use for that property. So it'll sit vacant.
His opinion is that there's no commercial use for the property.
Well, it's been sitting there up for sale for a long, long time.
You are required to make a decision.
Yes, you
one
are.
way or the other.
Right.
Right.
What's the time frame for that?
60 days
Since
his application, but we're gonna have to, which will be coming up by the next meeting, by your next meeting will be his 60-day. There is an application. You've already received it. You received it last month.
Right,
That's the
And you said
complete and
that-
full application.
right. So we've already spent 30 days
That's
We
the
don't know
nature of
much
these
about it.
committees.
Yeah.
and we have to make a recommendation to the town council in 60 days.
What I'll do is ask him to, with his written response, to ask for an extension on the delivery or to consider
to-
that the newest date of his application.
So he can withdraw the application and resubmit it.
Either that, or he can make the changes and respond in writing and say this is dated,
revise the application.
this is dated
He-
July
he-
15th and,
Okay, he can withdraw it without prejudice
yeah,
is the term.
yeah.
Yeah, because I'm just worried that we're gonna lose
No, I
the
hear you.
time frame,
Right.
and there's nothing in the zoning ordinance that explains the time frame from what I could see looking
No,
at the
no.
zoning. ordinance. But the state code goes from
States
60 to
60.
90 days.
Right,
So that's one of the things we're gonna have to work on with the zoning ordinance.
agreed.
I would also say when we do receive the complete application, we need to send it to VDOT. We need to send it to the Chesapeake Bay Local Assistance Department. We need to send it to the police chief, and we need to send it to the fire company and get their input on it.
Okay,
Because these are
a good
big
idea.
things. We also need to look at the economic impact to the town, both in terms of taxes and additional services, all that good stuff.
Mhm.
So it sounds to me like what we're talking about tonight is tabling it, but I also think if we're gonna get all those different kinds of input, when we get his responses to the questions, we're gonna need to reset the clock.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're gonna have to reset the clock
If he
because we won't
resubmits
make it.
If he resubmits it, that will.
That'll trigger the
clock,
new
But
clock.
then we have to
Yeah,
to work on it.
we gotta work on it.
Yes.
Okay,
Then our job
The
starts.
clock
Right.
ticks.
right, right. Okay, so
Thank you.
what we would do now is table it. No or reject it.
Do we have to
Well,
take any
yeah.
action?
Do we have to take any action?
No.
Okay,
Yeah, if he's gonna withdraw it and resubmit it, then we don't really have to do it.
Right.
okay,
But we need to know if he doesn't withdraw it.
okay. So it could be that this process, you know, we're all learning, thank God we've got Jim on here because he also understands all this stuff. You two are the two really get it. What I'm thinking is that we need a checklist that walks us through the steps that we just have so that those of us who are not zoning experts, although we're going to become more expert on zoning, so that all the things that Jim said about these are groups that have to look at it, right? These are the people who have to look at it. Am I correct that that would be a helpful thing if we could have something where we were walking through and we knew that once a thing was applied, once a thing was submitted, here are the steps and we're going to do these things.
I'll ask our attorney to write that up for us.
Okay.
Because he can craft it on state code and our code.
That would be really good.
There is a little bit in the zoning ordinance about verifying that the applicant is not delinquent taxpayer, identifying who the applicant is, stuff like, but then it stops. You know, where you get to the point where it would specifically have a process that just says reserved. So
Right.
There's a place for it.
There's a
but
place
it's never
for
been
it.
developed.
It's never been developed. Okay. Okay.
It seems like everyone's gonna be pretty amenable to, giving us extending the time and all that. My question is, if it goes south and it doesn't, what are the consequences? If we miss a deadline, in general, if we miss a deadline like this, does it automatically?
He would be able to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals at that point.
Yeah, right, and.
Well,
Yeah.
no. Often if an application is not processed within the time frame, it's deemed accepted.
That's my
Yeah,
question, is
yeah.
it de facto then, does he
Yes.
get his zoning approved?
In my experience, yes. If we deny the rezoning, then he can take it to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Right.
And if the Board of Zoning,
After town council.
well, if town council, we only recommend, but
Right.
if we recommend to council to deny it, they deny it, then they have the option of going to the Board of Zoning Appeals. And if they deny it, then they can go to the court, to the circuit court.
Okay.
But we need that process. That
Yes,
needs to be in the zoning ordinance
Yeah.
because people need to understand this.
Okay. It would just help me a lot. I mean, my course starts at the end of August, but but between now and
Be
then.
the poster child for what not to do.
Yeah, I know. And I don't want to go in there and say, well, we just really screwed the pooch on this, So
Technical term.
technical term, that's right.
Maybe, Matt, you can ask the attorney to draft the ordinance, if that would give us all the
Oh, I would,
timeframes
Yeah,
versus a checklist.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah, we
give it.
can-
Well, I would like the ordinance, but I also would really like to have it translated into a checklist. I know this
Yeah.
sounds,
That.
yeah, I would like to have it translated into a checklist because then we'll all have a checklist. We can say, okay, this, we now have moved through this process and it will help those of us who are not zoning experts and are also not really interested in becoming zoning experts to be able to feel like we've moved to the process in a timely way and met all the legal requirements. So, so we're really talking about, let's try to get this ordinance done ASAP, and then we'll develop, and then have a checklist developed from it. And, I will certainly,
A change in ordinance normally takes a minimum of 3 months.
okay,
Yep.
Because of the nature of the
Yep.
meetings and the way
Right.
they fall and the
Yeah.
hearings we have to have. Yeah.
Just like a rezoning.
Exactly.
yeah.
I don't mean to go there, but didn't the development that the county has just to the east of town, that included commercial space as part of its design? I'm just still thinking about how our B2 has no value, and yet in that 400,
His commercial space is out on 13.
well, but part of that 400, we don't know the effect of that 450 unit development yet, is all I'm thinking.
No.
And so-
His retail is on Route 13.
I understand.
What he's saying.
And I understand that. And your point's taken, man. I'm
Yeah.
just,
Okay. Any other comments on this? Okay. So we actually, do we have to take do we have to have a motion to
I
take
guess
no action?
Just while the attorney's developing that language, he can certainly summarize it so we can use it as a guide, even if it's not, because if we don't have it in the ordinance, it's gonna defer back to the state code.
Yeah.
So we need to know what the state code allows. And, even if we're not it's not in our ordinance yet. We need to follow that timeline.
We do.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. All right. Anybody else want to add any other comments on this? So Jim, can you sort of help with this
Yeah,
process?
yeah, I've been offering to help. so,
Yeah. Okay, excellent. And I'll,
Making checklists.
okay,
And
Checklists are
review
really
zoning
good.
applications if there's anything in the application to review.
I worship at your shrine on this, so, okay. Okay, so we don't have to do anything right now, which is great. And so what I'm doing is I'm flipping back and forth a little bit, but is there any public comment on this process? Okay. Now we're gonna kind of go back down and talk about the update on assignments of responsibility. You know, people are, where we really are now, guys, is the research process. And this will be going on for some months, obviously, as we talk to different groups. It seems like, because we're in this research process for some of the areas, like thinking about groundwater and some of the other issues that we're interested in, that people have responsibility for, I think it's time to collect data, right? It's time to collect data. And for example, data and information in relation to water and the water system and the Chesapeake, what the Chesapeake Bay Act is requiring of us. And then the business section, it sounds like what's happening is we're in the process of data collection right now.
And it was nice to hear that there was interest in, which I mentioned, 2 meetings ago, that my focus is both the charm of Nancock and then how do we sell the town?
Yeah,
And that's apparently consistent with, in spite of who I am, apparently consistent with what the community is interested in.
yeah,
And so that's good that we're aligning that way. And so,
yeah.
just by default,
How,
I'll keep doing that.
How are you doing on comparing the list that Matt, or looking at this, at the comprehensive plan, at the action steps, and figuring out what's been done and what hasn't been
Do you mean the
done?
goals?
The goals, yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, there's not a whole lot I can do with it without Matt's input, and I know he's probably stretched thin. I don't know if you want to try to get together at some point about it, or you want to,
I can take a first swing at it and then
Yeah.
send it your way.
yeah,
Okay.
that'd be great.
Okay, that would be really helpful to see where we are, what's on the action steps that hasn't taken place yet, that hasn't been done yet. And let's see, John, you're working with, yeah, right, you're working with Jim. Okay, and Jeff, you're working with Paul here, and I don't know if there's something that would be of interest to you to find out more about at this point.
Well, I mean, I can help him in any way needed, and we can definitely pull what OMS is doing as well.
Okay,
To pull in a lot.
I've
of
got it.
information,
Oh, I
especially
want
with the
to,
Open for Business program that Cindy mentioned, we're pulling together a lot of that information that can be used.
Great.
Market survey might
And
be
the market
helpful.
survey, yeah, absolutely.
so I've got to send an email to Lisa. I'll see if I can get Main Street Onancock Main Street to come to the next meeting. If they can fit it in. I'll try to get them in at the next one.
They would be the right people.
Yeah, they're the right people to bring in for the next one based on what we just learned from this
Right.
one. So, okay. All right. Well, the other thing that I did is, because of the way I think as a researcher, I got really interested in the question about what you would learn from maps. And I think I sent that around to you guys. I've been sending a lot of paper around, but before I start looking at what kind of maps are out there and what's available, I wanted to make sure that we had our research questions, right? And then we'll find out if there are, if there's a response, if there's maps available out there, if it's something we're going to have to make, is it something we really want to do? you know, so I had sent that around to you guys, and I won't make you respond to that now. But if you would like to email about that and see if there, what you want to add to this list, and what we're really talking about is research questions. One that occurred to me that, you know, and of course, I just forgot what I was going to say. Cindy, it's
I don't
contagious.
I don't remember getting anything about Nats.
No, I thought I sent it to everybody on their email.
What did we get?
Also on page.
Yeah, on your packet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we had, I'm having problems with attachments on Outlook. I've had attachments that I am sure I sent that seem to have disappeared into outer space.
Detached.
Yeah, they have detached. Does that happen?
No, okay.
Windows or Apple?
I'm using a Mac, is that why?
I would guess that that's why, but
Yeah.
there's a special subscription that we can get if we need to for Apple users.
Okay, that might be why.
Dragging and dropping them into the message? Did you want?
I've been attaching them.
Right, but how are you attaching?
Well, I've been using the paper clip and
Yeah.
it says attach a file.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
Usually work.
But I'll tell you what, I'm gonna send, before you invest more money in that, I'm gonna send all you guys an attachment, a meaningless attachment with something like the weather report or something on it. And I'll send you the message.
This can't get in the.
Oh, yeah, we've got two of you guys who
Yeah.
can't get into your
Not
email.
gonna be able to work on it again until Thursday,
Okay,
but I will persist. They called me last Thursday after, Debbie helped me, but I was busy at the time. I couldn't pick up the phone, but anyway.
okay.
Yeah, just keep sending to both my addresses until.
Oh, all right.
And I'll let
Okay,
you
and I'll
know
do the
when
same for
Dan
you.
starts working.
Yeah, yeah. I've been trying to be very good in using that. So, okay, if you go to page 8 of the packet, you'll see that there are map questions here. And I don't necessarily expect you to, you know, have an immediate response to these, but what I'd like you to do is please take a look at this and tell me, you know, if there's other kinds of data that you'd like to know that might actually be well represented visually.
Many years ago, I took some classes in geographic information systems. And basically you have to have an address to put onto a map to be able to layer. Correct? So if you're following me, how on earth are you going to have tree cover? Do you have an address for every tree?
No.
No.
No,
How is that
You
possible?
can create a file based on the aerial photo.
yeah, just the aerial photos.
Okay, it's proceeded beyond my knowledge.
Yeah,
Doesn't-
okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Yeah,
One really basic thing I think we need is the zoning. I get so frustrated by our paper zoning.
yeah,
map
we need a
is out of
better,
date.
we need a better zoning map.
Matt, you know, you and I had a conversation. You were talking about with the county, a capability to create maps, a new software?
Yeah.
Did I hear that
We
right?
have a GIS.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so can we create our own maps?
Yeah, we totally can.
All right.
So
Do we
what I
have
want,
to can any of us do it, or is that required to the town staff?
One single user license.
Okay, well, single license, okay. Well, but we can assist,
yeah,
What we can do is
learn how to use it.
Yeah.
color the paper maps and hand them.
I'll bet not. I'm sure it's not.
That's the way it's done. Color the paper map and hand it to Matt. and let
Yeah.
him Put it on.
and we can use, and some of these may not be anything that we want to use, right? I was brainstorming. What would I be interested in seeing so I could figure out, for example, you know, land owned by government entities, but I'd like to be able to see what is owned by the town, the county, and the state within town boundaries. And then the other thing I'd like to see is how much of that is in the riparian zone, right? So what I'm interested in doing is sometimes there are real questions that you can get when you pull this stuff together by putting these two layers together. So what I was sitting and doing was literally going, what would I like to know about? And then some of these, as with any research project, you discover that some of these are pointless. You're not going to do them. it was more detail than anybody needed ever, ever, ever. But, so that's what this is.
Could I just, Matt, do we get a newsletter or anything from Esri?
That's the software we own.
Right.
Yeah.
Do we get their newsletter talking about projects that they've implemented?
We do.
I think that would be helpful to circulate to the members.
Happy to throw your way.
Because it'll give people the idea for what other localities are.
That's
using
a
it
great
for.
idea, so that you can look at it.
The county can do higher level analysis. Tom Brokenbroad.
Yeah.
And he lives in town. He can do this stuff. But he'll have to get, paid to do it.
Yeah.
I know when I worked for the county and Tom, we worked together. We would do maps for the town or other entities and charge them a nominal fee. And, but what you want when you do that is to get the actual data. You just don't want a paper map or even a digital map or a PDF. You want the data. So, because he can query the tax database and find out what does the federal government own? What does the state government own?
Yeah.
And he can do that, but you'd have to talk to him and get an estimate on. what it
Yeah.
costs.
But I don't even, I'm ready to go and I will go and talk to him when it's time. I'm really interested in this process. And I think visualizing data is really helpful to people, but I want to have a set of research questions. So that's what I'm doing with this brainstorming. So what I'd like you to do is, I could see someone saying, I'd really like to know where the vultures nest in town so that I can avoid walking there in the evening. But you know what I mean, is let's take a look at this. And then what we'll do is develop some things we want to know, and then we'll figure out how to get those things. And then we'll find out if some of them are impossible, but we don't know right now.
Can I just add, Casey, I would caution against getting too deeply into the weeds like vulture's nest.
No,
Remember,
no.
all of this has to be maintained. So we want information, but we want information that most people are going to want to see.
Right,
Not
right.
a whole lot of detail that, you've got to try to keep it posted all the and updated.
Yeah. No,
That's
a
the hard
vulture
part.
nest
I'm
was a
teasing,
joke.
but
Yeah, vulture
that-
nest was a joke.
I think we need
Yeah,
to
the back of Car
prioritize.
Place in back of Car Place. We have a big black X. It's like, don't walk
Well, it's
there.
good to know the ownership because then you can map
Right,
those things.
right. So,
Water,
Existing land use.
drainage
and then
system.
existing land
Yeah.
use you use to develop the zoning map.
yeah, because I think we really want to have a land use and then zoning, and then you can put them together, right? But you want to have them as separate
Well, land use
entities.
should be separate.
Right,
That's the base layer.
right.
Then you develop your future land use and then that informs any zoning decisions. And right
Okay.
now, as far as I can tell, the comp plan has no future land use. map,
No, it doesn't
Which makes it difficult to make a zoning.
make good decisions.
decision.
Yeah. So, yeah, bear with me as we work our way through this, but I've sort of picked this as a thing that I will work on. I'm interested in learning it. I'm interested in knowing about it anyways. And so, I will, when I have a list of research questions and things that we want to know, then I'll talk to Matt, I'll go to him, I'll go to Tom, and we'll figure out how to get there. But what I'd like from you guys is research questions. And then some of them I may say, okay, that can be buried inside this, or that's a dumb question. Vultures is a dumb question, but I use it as an example, right? Okay. So anyway, that's what that is. So you can take a look at it. Okay. So, anything else anything that you guys want to say to this? Anybody want to pick on me some more?
Do you want us to
Okay.
give you our comments in writing on this? Are you gonna?
Yes.
We have a Word document we can comment on.
Well, I think I will send you I will try to send you yet again the attachment. And if you haven't gotten it, I'll send it on your private email. I can send it to you on your private email.
Can you CC me?
Yes,
I can have it electronically to keep everybody merged.
right. Everybody merged.
And do we want like a 2-week time limit? or a
I would like,
week time limit on?
let's do 2 weeks so that I can compile it, and Matt and I can
Okay, thank
compile
you.
it. Yep.
I mean, when you send it out.
Oh, yeah.
it's behind.
Right,
Okay.
because I'm just thinking.
Yep.
That I think we've tasked Matt with 4 or 5
Big things.
small projects, quote unquote, with time he doesn't already have. And so,
So that's what I'm interested in doing is coming up with the research questions, right? And then we'll figure out what we want in terms of maps. You know, that's how we should roll on this. And yeah. And one of the things I'm trying to think about is, and see if you can think about this, is how to map our less well-off citizens. Figure out where we have issues that might need to be addressed in terms of some kind of support. So,
To do a survey back when we got the $1 million Northeast grant. For
Ah,
moderate income
okay.
housing. But that was only for one quadrant of town.
that's a start. We'll figure, we can.
Did you
it's a
do
start.
a door-to-door survey? Yeah, yeah.
I bet. I'm sorry.
Jim, do you know if we can get Census Bureau zones?
They don't identify the data at that small a scale.
Really?
Like you could do it for the census tract, of which there are about 7 on the Eastern Shore, but neighborhood level, they don't. It's
No, in
it's a
Richmond.
privacy issue, yeah.
In Richmond, I had
You could say,
seen the
yeah.
data.
Yeah, these 30,000 people that live in this, block.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got so many at this rate, blah, 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 but you can't do it when it's, because it's
We're
too easy to identify.
A prisoner reentry project, and interestingly enough, the releases from the state system of prisons went to about maybe 5 census tracts in the city of Richmond. It was interesting data.
Yeah. So, okay,
But you can do windshield survey of
yeah,
condition of the house,
can look at tax,
stuff like
at
that.
property
and-
tax.
And maybe even, without identifying the owner, unpaid utility bills to get a sense of where the need is.
Yeah. So we'll figure some of that stuff out. We'll figure it out. So, okay. I am a dogged researcher when I get going on a project, so we'll
So you want
figure
this
this
by
stuff
the
out.
22nd if we get it tomorrow?
Yes, please.
2 weeks?
I may send it to you tonight. So, but I'll send it to you tomorrow, and I'll send it to your
Send it, send it to
Onancock.
both, so that way,
Yeah.
whenever I get, I'll have it all in one place.
Okay,
and legally.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so the next order of business is town manager report. Town manager, you got anything you want to add?
I only had 3 zoning applications this month. 2 of them weren't required because they were for fences and roof repair, and the other one is I have to go out and do the field measurements. So
Okay,
not a lot going on.
all right. Well, that's good because we got a lot of other stuff going on, so it's, yeah. General public comment, any additional comments? Okay, thank you for attending, by the way. Commissioners' comments. Greg, you got any comments?
Glad to be here. It's funny, I identified very quickly when Jeff talked about the difference between sitting up here and sitting out there. Been sitting out there for a while,
Yeah,
and you get a much different perspective when you're sitting up here. And it helps that there's nobody here, or almost.
yeah.
Yeah, very small crowd, compared to the town councils.
Yeah.
Anyway, glad to be here and glad to be working with everybody here. And I will lend in with you, Jim, on just the general zoning.
Okay,
All hands.
Jeff, comments?
I have any comments?
Okay, Cindy?
I did want to comment on something that kind of near and dear to my heart as a person who likes research like you do, Casey. I think when we look at statistics, we have to really look kind of below the surface level, below here's what the media is telling you, at this level. And we have to look at how those statistics were collected, exactly what they mean. Otherwise, we're dealing with misinformation or incomplete information. So I would just caution everybody as we're doing our research to make sure that you delve deeper into the methods that they use to acquire those statistics. That's it.
Okay, you'll notice on the revised one that I put, I've actually explained which are ACS statistics that, and what their error is. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. In the past, my thing to come. I love what you just said, and to that end, I spent some time with the census and ACS data. And it would be extremely helpful if you included the table number. So some things are table GP05, some things are table GP03.
Okay.
And it just would make it a lot easier because some of the data I wasn't able to find in the source data because there wasn't a sufficient level of attribution.
Oh, okay.
So that would be extremely helpful.
Okay. I'll have to figure out how to set it up. I mean, I set this up. This was very basic. I mean, we're really talking much more of a complicated Excel spreadsheet, God help me, that would include a thing that had table number, something like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
PDF of the table that you're excerpting.
yeah,
And attach it as the source reference.
yeah. Okay. All right. I have no comments. Anything else there?
Sure, just, thank you for everyone who's come because, as I disclosed to OBS that working on the plan, my interest is in a walkable, livable, ageable town as much as possible. So any input, is solicited. So please help with that. And then parenthetically, tongue in cheek, I think that I heard from Cynthia that, there are liars, damn liars and statisticians. Is
You can make them say what you want. Yep, yep.
I just want to thank everybody, and Bill and company are gone, but it was really good discussion with them, and welcome Greg. We look forward to working with you.
Yep. No comments. Okay, on that, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Move.
Second, okay, all in favor? Aye. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
That's fine. When you swoop in.